The tycoon's sneer carved through the clink of fine china. The private dining room in Jeddah fell silent under the weight of his arrogance.
$20,000 to anyone who can name this bean's exact village. Not the region, not the mountain, the village.
Wealthy guests exchanged amused glances. No server would dare, not with that smirk. The challenge was a public mockery.
$20,000. That could clear the cooperative's debt for an entire season.
A woman near the head of the table leaned to her husband and whispered, "He's humiliating them on purpose." Then, from the serving line, one figure stepped forward. The burgundy apron barely shifted, but every eye in the room locked on her. A murmur rippled through the wealthy patrons.
You? Name it?
Let me taste it first.
Taste. You think this is a tea party? Fine. But if you fail, you will wish you had stayed silent.
She reached for the tiny porcelain cup as the aroma of ancient port filled the silence. The room held its breath, waiting. Her fingers closed around the porcelain cup, and the world outside the rim faded to nothing. The clink of spoons, the arrogant chuckles, all muffled.
This aroma, it's the same as the day Mama first taught me to cup, when I was 9 and the mountain still felt like home.
Inhale deeply, Habibti. If you can't read the bean, you have no business selling it.
That memory crossed oceans with her. In her cramped Jeddah apartment, beside a nightstand holding the family photo. The scent was a tether to everything she'd left behind.
$20,000. That's not just money. That's a full year of honest harvest for the cooperative, without Mama having to beg for a fair price.
In this dining room, she wore a white Oxford and burgundy apron, but her calloused hands still remembered picking cherries, until they bled on those steep terraces.
You've cupped 1,000 lots. You know the terroir of every wadi. Trust your training. Trust your blood.
We don't have all night. Either you know something, girl, or you're wasting everyone's time.
His finger tapped the table once. The glint of a gold cufflink caught the chandelier light as he leaned back, savoring the silence. Maria lifted the cup to her lips. The first sip would either shatter his arrogance or bury her in front of everyone she'd ever need to impress. The liquid touched her tongue, and an entire landscape bloomed behind her closed eyelids. High-altitude sunlight, stony soil, the patient hands that had dried the cherries.
Bani Matar. The bean is telling me everything. The altitude, the dry heat, even the harvest year. I almost see the terrace.
She opened her eyes, and the room seemed to tilt toward her. The golden liquid had surrendered its secrets.
Bani Matar district. Western Highlands, not the lower slopes.
Ibrahim's smirk twitched, then froze. The name echoed off the crystal glasses.
The elevation of 2,150 meters. You can taste the cold nights and the brightness.
The guests leaned forward, forks suspended midair. Someone whispered, "She's actually doing it."
And this harvest, 2022, dry processed. The sun drying left a trace of raisin on the finish.
Ibrahim's drumming fingers went dead on the tablecloth. The powerful hand slowly unclenched. For the first time all evening, the smirk abandoned his face entirely. The tycoon had run out of easy contempt. Ibrahim straightened his bisht as though the fabric could restore his authority. The crowd might be impressed, but he wasn't done.
A lucky guess from a girl who probably saw the shipping label. Anyone can read a map.
You want more than a location? I can tell you the story of this bean, the people who grew it, the soil that shaped it. The first taste is dark chocolate, rich but not bitter. Then dates, sun-dried in the open air. Underneath, a subtle cardamom note. Not added, this is the bean itself, grown in soil, layered with limestone.
The guests were no longer amused. Forks rested on plates, heads turned. They were students, captivated by a lecture they never expected.
That limestone gives it a faint minerality. Any professional cupper would recognize it.
Ibrahim opened his mouth to dismiss her, but no sound came. The description was too precise, too intimate. His jaw tightened. The chandelier lights suddenly felt harsh, exposing every crack in his public performance. In the hush, the waitress was no longer serving coffee. She was defining it, and the tycoon had nowhere left to hide.
All right, so you've heard of Bani Matar, but this bean is perfect, exactly as my importer promised.
Perfect. That metallic sting on the aftertaste, it shouldn't be there. This bean has been touched by something dirty. With respect, Mr. Ibrahim, there is a sour, metallic aftertaste. Bani Matar never carries that.
At the far end of the table, the importer Tariq shifted. His hand tightened around his coffee cup until the knuckles whitened.
Just a slight storage issue at the port. Humidity does that sometimes. Nothing to worry about.
Humidity doesn't leave a metallic residue. That taste comes from lower-grade beans being blended in, poorly sorted.
Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. He had paid for purity. The girl's accusation was a direct challenge to his supply chain.
Who is this waitress to question a professional? Sabotage. She's trying to embarrass us all.
Tariq, is there any truth to what this girl is saying about my coffee?
Tariq's face drained of color. The guests watched as the importer struggled for an answer that would not condemn him. Maria did not blink. The aftertaste was a map, and it led straight to Hodeidah, where blending was an open secret among traders.
Your importer has been cutting your star mocha with cheaper beans from Hodeidah. That's why the finish is dirty.
You have no right. This is slander against a reputable businessman. She has no evidence.
Quiet. You claim to know my supply chain better than I do. Explain.
He's not just defensive, he's terrified. That panic will betray him if I press just a little further. The beans are blended in a dust-filled warehouse with no temperature control. The cheap beans carry moisture, and the metal taste comes from oxidized oils in the blending vats.
Every guest in the room could feel the ground shifting beneath the importer's polished shoes. Some pulled out their phones.
Ibrahim, you can't believe a waitress over me. I built your connections.
If I find one grain of truth in her words, you will regret this night more than any deal you ever made.
The tycoon's voice was low, but the threat slithered around the chandeliers. Tariq's mouth opened, closed, opened again, but for the first time, the importer had no answer. Ibrahim needed more than words. He gestured toward the coffee cart. Prove it, or disappear from this room.
The warehouse in Hodeidah has 3 blending bays. They mix the Bani Matar with cheap flatland beans from Tihama. The chemical marker is ropirazine, a compound created when you roast low-grade beans too fast to mask defects. Your importer uses it to hide his fraud.
Lies. She invented that word. No one can taste a chemical compound.
But a voice rose from the table. A guest, a retired chemist from Aramco, adjusted his glasses and leaned forward. He peered over the rim of his cup and said, "Ropirazine is real. I have tested it myself in the lab." She is correct. The room gasped. The waitress's technical precision had just been scientifically validated. Tariq's defense crumpled like dry leaves.
You have been poisoning my reputation for years. Answer me, Tariq. Who else have you robbed?
I could stop now, but the families who grew these beans deserve more than a tasting victory.
The challenge had become a courtroom, and the judge's gavel was the trembling hand of a coffee importer who had nowhere left to run.
She's a spy? Ibrahim. Rivals sent her to humiliate you. No server could know this without ulterior motive.
Maria did not flinch. In the candlelight, her face was unreadable, but her fingers tightened around the porcelain cup.
You hear the man. How does a waitress know the inside of my warehouse? Speak, or I'll have you removed.
This is the moment. If I tell him now, Tariq will retaliate. But they need to know why I am here. I know because my family has been hurt by this man's business. That aftertaste is theft from my mother's community.
Gasps rippled through the guests. The woman next to the chemist whispered, "This is deeper than coffee."
What do you mean by your mother's community? Explain yourself or I'll assume everything you've said is a lie.
Lies. She's fabricating a story to gain your sympathy. Throw her out now.
Maria met Ibrahim's gaze. The professional cupper had vanished. Now there was only a daughter with a truth that had been waiting years. Ibrahim saw her eyes shift. For a reason he couldn't name, he believed her. The room waited for the secret that would tear his business apart.
My mother, Amal, runs a cooperative in Bani Matar. Your importer has been exploiting her for years.
Ibrahim's face froze. The mockery was gone.
Tariq paid us a fraction of the market rate. He took our finest harvest and blended it with cheap beans.
Tariq's mouth opened, but only a strangled breath escaped. His hand trembled over the stained tablecloth.
For years, I trusted you with my supply chain, and you repaid me by robbing widows.
She's lying. There was no exploitation, just difficult market conditions.
Difficult. My mother received 600 rials per kilo, while you charged Ibrahim 1,600.
The guests sat frozen, their champagne glasses forgotten, as the real cost of their evenings sank in. Ibrahim's chest heaved. He stared at the coffee stain on the tablecloth, but his mind was on the faces he had never seen. In the hush, the clink of a single coffee cup sounded like a verdict. Ibrahim's voice rose from a whisper to a roar. Every guest felt the shift as the tycoon's fury turned from the waitress to the man he had trusted for decades.
They agreed to the price. It's not theft, it's business.
Business? I have the receipts on my phone. My mother sent them every month, hoping someone would hear.
She held up the screen. A photo of Amal's ledger showed month after month of payments that barely covered the harvest, while Ibrahim's import invoices showed triple the price. Ibrahim scrolled through the images, his face darkening with each swipe. The discrepancy was undeniable. The guests, who had chuckled at the challenge, now watched a tycoon's empire shake in the palm of a waitress. Some lowered their phones, ashamed to record.
That's private property. You have no right to see those numbers.
You have no right to speak. This is my company. You have poisoned.
The women of Bani Matar thought they had a partner. Instead, their harvest was robbed while your importer bought his second villa.
Ibrahim's hands fell to his sides. The betrayal was absolute. The challenge he had started now felt like a debt he could never repay. Tariq lunged, his composure shattered. His fingers clawed at the air, desperate to snatch the foam that held his shame.
Enough. You have disgraced this house. Touch her, and you will regret the day you were born.
The tycoon's voice shook the chandelier crystals. For the first time, his fury had a purpose beyond pride. It defended the very people he had unknowingly harmed.
This matter will be fully investigated. I assure you all, justice will be served.
An investigation. That takes months. My mother's cooperative doesn't have months to wait for justice.
Ibrahim's eyes locked onto hers. He saw not a server, but a woman whose quiet fury made his fortune feel like a debt.
You can promise inquiries, or you can act now. Which kind of man are you, Mr. Ibrahim?
She's right. If I do nothing tonight, I lose more than reputation.
The room held its breath, all eyes on the tycoon whose decision would echo far beyond this dinner. The $20,000 prize lay forgotten on the table. The real wager had become something far greater, the dignity of a village. Ibrahim's jaw set. The room expected a verdict. He raised a hand, and the guests fell silent.
Tariq, you are relieved of all duties. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out.
You'll regret this, Ibrahim. I'll bury you, you and that lying waitress.
2 security guards appeared. Tariq's threats died in his throat as they took his arms. The door slammed behind him with a finality that echoed through the crystal. The guests didn't applaud. They sat in stunned silence, the weight of what they had witnessed pressing down. Ibrahim turned to Maria. His expression was unreadable, but the arrogance had vanished entirely.
Come to my office tomorrow morning. We have much to discuss.
He offered a curt nod and strode toward the exit, his bisht trailing behind him like a shadow. Maria stood alone by the coffee cart. the taste of victory bitter on her tongue. The $20,000 remained untouched. The morning sun sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ibrahim's corner office. Maria stepped inside, her white Oxford replaced with a simple blue dress.
Thank you for coming. Last night, you exposed a rot I refused to see. The bet was yours to win.
With a push of his fingers, a check for $20,000 slid across the polished rosewood. The numbers glinted under the desk lamp.
I didn't do it for money. I did it so my mother's village can survive. My mother, Amal, works 18-hour days. She and the other women have to sell their harvest for half of what it's worth, just to keep the cooperative alive.
18 hours. The wives of my business partners spend that on shopping.
Every year, fewer girls finish school because the families can't afford the fees. The coffee was supposed to change that. Instead, Tariq stole their future.
Ibrahim's shoulders sagged. The tycoon who had sneered at a waitress now sat humbled by a daughter's quiet testimony.
What do you want, Maria? Name it.
The check lay untouched between them. The real negotiation had only just begun. Ibrahim rose and paced to the window, the skyline wavering behind his reflection. For a long moment, he stared at nothing.
Tariq was my late wife's cousin. I trusted him with her family's name. That trust made me blind. I wonder if I deserve the respect I've been given. I built an empire on a lie I didn't see.
He's not performing anymore. This regret is genuine.
So I ask again, Maria, not as a tycoon, but as a man who wants to make amends, what do you need?
A direct contract. Fair prices. No middlemen. My mother and the other women deserve to keep the value of their own work.
Ibrahim nodded slowly. The weight of her demand hung between them, a lifeline he hadn't known he was seeking.
You are asking me to dismantle a system my father built, but it's the right thing to do.
He said yes. After all the sneering, he actually said yes.
The agreement had no ink yet, but in that office, the future of a village had already shifted. Ibrahim pressed a button on his desk. His legal team appeared within minutes, tablets glowing with draft clauses.
A direct trade contract, 400% of their previous rate, with retroactive compensation for the last 2 years.
Maria watched the lawyers type. The room had transformed from a tycoon's refuge into a rescue mission. Within the hour, a 6-page contract lay on the rosewood desk. The numbers glowed, a lifeline for every family in Bani Matar.
And I want you as my chief quality officer. Your palate can dismantle exploitation before it festers again.
A job. A real job. Not just a thank you, but a place to fight from.
Your palate is worth more than any price. This isn't charity, it's strategy.
The tycoon extended his hand, not to push a check, but to open a partnership.
I don't know what to say. This is everything my mother prayed for.
The ink had dried, but Maria's signature had not yet joined his. The final choice, and the new life it carried, still rested in her hands. Maria picked up the pen. Her hand, steady as when she cupped the coffee, traced her name across the dotted line. The ink bled hope.
This isn't just a signature. It's every sunrise my mother spent bent over the drying beds.
She pulled out her phone and pressed the video call. The screen flickered, then filled with the familiar lines of a weathered face.
Maria, what's wrong? Why are you calling from a palace?
Mama, nothing is wrong. Everything is right. We have a direct contract, fair price, forever.
Ya Allah. After all these years, someone listened. My daughter, you have brought back the rain.
In the blurred background of the call, women's hands rose above their heads. The ulazation began, a sound Maria hadn't heard since her grandmother's funeral. Ibrahim watched from his desk. His own eyes glistened. For the first time in years, his fortune felt like a living thing.
She's crying, but those are tears of relief. We did it. We actually did it.
The contract lay between them, but the victory was already echoing across mountains, far beyond this office. Ibrahim lifted the receiver, and spoke a few quiet words. On the other end, a banker confirmed the transfer.
The $20,000 will be in the cooperative's account by noon. Call it a bonus. And I am breaking ground on a processing facility in Bani Matar. The women will roast their own beans. No more dusty warehouses.
You would do that? Give them their own facility?
You have restored something in me, Maria. Dignity. That is worth more than any sum.
They shook hands. No longer a bet or a bargain. The grip was a covenant. Ibrahim slid a small white card across the table. Gold lettering read, Chief Quality Officer.
A waitress's apron traded for a seat at the table. Mama would laugh at the irony.
They walked toward the door. Through the floor to ceiling windows, the Jeddah sun poured in like a promise. Outside, Maria tipped her face to the light. A small, exhausted smile broke free. The first gift she had given herself in years. The route traced across her mind like a vein of memory. Honduras to Yemen, with years of exhaustion lining every mile.
I left a girl who could barely speak the language. I return with a contract that could feed 100 families.
Outside the window, the Sarawat Mountains rose like a spine through the mist. She had dreamed of this silhouette every night in the city.
Grandmother would say the soil speaks louder than money. Today, I carry both.
The plane descended. Through the cabin's hush, the first glimpse of terraced coffee fields appeared, emerald steps carved into the mountain. The wheels touched the tarmac, and a jolt went through her chest. The sign outside the airport read the name she had spoken to the tycoon.
I am home, not as a refugee, not as a server, as someone who can finally give back.
She collected her single bag, the same one she had carried out of Honduras, and walked toward the exit where the air smelled of dust and coffee blossoms. In the distance, the village clung to the green slope. Somewhere in those narrow streets, her mother was already setting out the dishes.
Mama, I am coming, and this time, I bring the whole world with me.
The village entrance shimmered with jasmine garlands, their sweet scent cutting through the dust. A small red car crept up the stone path before the engine died. A woman in embroidered black burst from the crowd, her headscarf flying behind her.
Ya Benti. Ya Benti.
Maria barely had time to stand before her mother's arms crushed her. Amal sobbed into her shoulder, words lost in the embrace.
You came back. After 7 years, you came back.
The women of the cooperative raised their voices in a high, trembling ululation. Children threw coffee flowers into the air. An elder stepped forward and draped a necklace of jasmine around Maria's neck. Our daughter has returned with more than money. She brought us our pride, she said.
I promised you, Mama, no more strangers exploiting our harvest. This village will roast its own coffee.
The whole village surged forward, clapping and singing. Coffee was already brewing in every doorway.
This is the sound of healing, the sound my grandmother prayed I would hear.
That night, under 1,000 stars, the village square transformed. Long tables sagged with spiced lamb, flatbread, and honey-glazed dates. A courier placed a velvet box in Maria's hands. The note bore Ibrahim's seal. She lifted the lid. Inside, a gold-plated dalla caught the lantern light.
Bani Matar, 2,150 M. Honesty in every drop.
The elder raised a steaming cup. She left a waitress. She returns a queen. Amal took the dalla. Her hands, steady from years of harvest, poured the first cup. Children danced in circles, their laughter mingling with the ululation of the women.
This dalla will never pour a drop of injustice, only truth.
The feast lasted until the moon dipped. For the first time in years, the village didn't worry about tomorrow, and Maria, still wearing her jasmine garland, felt her grandmother's blessing settle deep in her bones. When the feasting deepened, Maria slipped away from the lantern glow and found the footpath only she remembered.
The same stones my grandmother stepped on, the same moon, only I am different.
She climbed until the village lanterns became a cluster of fireflies below. At the crest, a wild coffee bush bent under its own blossoms. She broke a single white flower and held it to her nose.
This scent, it was the first thing I knew. Before fear, before flight.
The perfume mixed with the ghost of roasting smoke, that dark, sweet cloud that had filled her grandmother's kitchen.
I used to carry that smell, like a burden. Now it smells like a future.
She sat on the cool rock and let the breeze lift the jasmine from her neck. The weight of years began to loosen.
I didn't just come back. I grew into who I was supposed to be.
Under the same stars her grandmother had blessed, Maria allowed herself to feel something she had never felt before. Enough. She tucked the coffee flower behind her ear and rose, her shadow stretching toward the lights below.
Grandmother, I hope I made you proud.
As she descended, her footsteps fell soft on the ancient stone, and a voice seemed to rise from the earth itself. Knowledge is a gift, but integrity is a seed. The words were her grandmother's, the first lesson she had ever learned. Now the harvest she had brought home.
And I planted it.
Down below, the lanterns flickered like stars fallen to earth. The sound of ululations rose to meet her. She walked not as a waitress, not as a refugee, but as a woman who had turned a sneer into a promise. The village came into view, warm and golden, the feast still alive, the coffee still pouring, and the screen fades on Bani Matar, alive with hope.